Welcome to Thickness Made Easy. Welcome to Thickness Made Easy. This is Z from Simple Baduk. Lesson 1 is going to be on what is thickness. Before we get into how to deal with and how to use thickness, we have to understand what is thickness. And we are going to first use some handicap games to explain thickness, and along the way, I'm going to try to explain as many things as I can so you get your buck's worth. I think that's an expression. The reason I'm going to use handicap games to explain what is thickness is that we are going to develop some thickness without even trying when we're playing handicap games. And when we are playing handicap games as black players and we lose, mostly because there are two reasons. Actually, there are three. First, your reading ability is not anything better than your opponent, or your opponent plays overplays or trick plays that you don't know how to deal with. And the third reason is gonna be you don't know how to use your thickness. Ability to read, that's not gonna develop too fast. You gotta keep working on that. And identifying overplays and trick plays and punishing them, that's gonna require a lot of work if you wanna actually study them. But thickness, it's a very easy subject that weirdly not many people actually talk about in the Western side of the Go community. So yeah, today we're gonna take a look at thickness. Let's take a look at this game first. This white approaches the bottom right corner and black pincers it. This is a great pincer because first it is applying pressure on this white stone. And second, it's trying to get something on this bottom left side. There is an invasion over here and over here, but when we are attacking, maybe black can get some stones out there to maybe solidify this part of the board. But that's not the focus. Let's take a look at what's going to happen from here. White is going to go into the corner, and now it is a very common joseki that we see in our games. And from here, we got A and B. Let's take a look at B first. If black plays B, this is a very safe move because black's pincer is too far away from this white stone. And it is a way of trying to solidify this area. But the thing is, we are wasting our chance of having a great thickness. Let's take a look at A. If we play A, then it is kind of a sente. Otherwise, white is gonna get, let's say white plays somewhere else. Then we have, boom, everything is gonna die. So that is a sente if you didn't know that. So white has to answer, and when white answers, black can keep pushing to have a complete wall over here. And since we have a wall over here, we're not afraid of white trying to escape from here. Before, we played a hane on B because we are afraid of, later on, white jumping out. That looks like a trouble, right? But if we have a complete wall first, then white jumping out, that's asking to get killed. So by having a thickness, we can lessen the threats of our opponents. That is, you can consider it as a aggression is the best defense kind of thing. White can try to live over here by playing this one spacer or anything else. But since we have a thickness, we can go for the kill. But again, in Simple Baduk, we don't recommend you to go for kills because when you are trying to kill someone, there is always a chance of getting counter killed. Anyway, by having a thick wall over here, although we didn't completely control this stone, just simply because we have a wall over here, this stone from a kind of useless stone that may have some use later on, it turned into a completely useless stone. If the opponent tries to drag it out, then he probably is going to lose. So the first thing we learned here is that thickness makes nearby opponent's stones weaker. The closer they get, the weaker they get. And in this case, it is literally touching our thickness. So this stone, we can consider it as a dead stone. Although your opponent later on can use this stone to try to do something over here, but in this state, it is considered as a dead stone. In Q games, now let's take a look at this picture. White approaches bottom right corner, and we have a high pincer, 2-space high pincer, and white tries to turn around and try to make something happen and takes 3-3. In this situation, actually, you can block from here or here. It doesn't really matter, but try to make thicker decision. And in this case, this might be a safer play. And although there are some other variations over here, let's take a look at this one first. From here, white has A and B. Where should white play? I hope you can get it right, but let's take a look at B first. If white plays B, then black can first throw in a stone. White has to make a decision. Either capture it immediately and lose the corner, or just try to save the corner like a normal person. And in this case, we can make a very solid turn. From here, if white plays away, then black pulling out this stone, it can be really powerful. I'm not going to get into the joseki thing. We have a whole another lecture, whole another project on josekis. So we're not going to go too deep into josekis. We're just going to learn about concepts and theories. And in this case, because black has this really thick turn over here, we can almost consider this as a dead stone. Let's take a look at another possibility that's gonna take a place in this kind of 6-stone handicap situation. White approaches, black answers, and notice black answers with a higher 4th line move because black has all these stones, which means there is a lot of possibilities with potentials and thicknesses and everything like that. So try to answer high if you wanna have a better fight in the mid game. And white approaches again. Black could keep playing something like this and allow white to get this, but if you don't really know how to use thickness, then there is always a chance that you don't know how to deal with this kind of thing, right? If you're a Q player, there is a very high chance of you either invading in and dying or making a floating stone out of nowhere and get attacked for no reason. If you don't want to have that kind of situation happening to you, then just play where your opponent wants to play. And from here, pincers, is that a pincer? Yeah. So in this situation, again, we didn't choose this one because of this stone, white can immediately cut black. So all black has to do is just save because, again, we have a lot of stones already. We don't have to be too stingy, right? And from here, all you gotta do is A or B. What do you think? Let's try B first. If black plays B, then white is gonna play over here. And this pincering stone all of a sudden is getting pincered by this white stone and this white's thickness. These white stones are alive, and white doesn't really care about this stone. All white has to do is, by attacking this stone, get some stones in the middle and invade. I'm going too far. Anyway, in short, because black went too far without finishing the joseki over here, black is gonna get attacked. So in this situation, black's proper move would be A and keep pushing. This way, black has a massive potential over here. From here, although white could come here and ruin your dream of getting a 3-star opener kind of thing happening over here, but you don't have to be too sad because on the process of doing that, let's say white did this thing. The easiest way to deal with it, so easy, and you have this massive thing going on for you. Pretty good game for black. Let's take a look at this picture. White approaches, black pincers, and this joseki is something that happens quite not really often in Q games, but it could happen because when I play with my Smurf accounts, some people actually use this move. So we have to take a look at this one too. And from here, where should black play? We could consider A because A is going to help us to build this side. And we could also consider B because B is preventing white to get a great shape going on the right side of the board. If I don't have A and B listed, then I believe a lot of Q players are going to choose B because I see a problem with Q players is that before they look at their own potential, they kind of try to, how do you say it, restrict their opponents first. It's like, I don't know what I have, but I don't want you to have what you're going to have. That is not a great mindset to have in Go and probably in life too. So in this situation, let's take a look at B first. If black plays B, then of course white is gonna move out the stone and I'm gonna make it quick. These stones are not gonna die. Even if somehow black plays here, it's not gonna die. Easy, very easy. It's not gonna die. Even if black tries to do all sorts of things, it's not gonna die. So that is a very alive stone. All white has to do is to deal with this situation, and that probably is not gonna die too. Now that we know B is not a good option, let's take a look at A. If black plays here, of course white's gonna hane, and all black has to do is just extend and just answer everything white has to do. And at the end, white has this majestic thing going on. Really good for white. That's a bravo. But look at yourself. You have this incredible possibility going on. So this is an acceptable result for both players, but in this situation, it is incredible for black, especially because it's a handicap game. So here's a tip. Before trying to restrict your opponent, always try to see if there is anything that you can do to make yourself better. And before we move on to our next picture, now it's black's turn. Where would you play? There's no ABCs. Where would you play? If I am the black player, then I'm gonna play here. That is a very incredibly sexy move. Now we have this gigantic moyo going on. Isn't that beautiful? Now let's take a look at 4-stone handicap game. Now in this game, white approaches black pincers, and you're gonna see a lot of pincers because pincering, although you're gonna lose some territory, you probably are gonna get either both sides or some incredible thickness. So expect a lot of pincers. White proceeds with the joseki, and from here, this is an incredible move. You're not gonna play here. You're not gonna play here and try to capture this stone because like in the first picture, you could immediately come back and control this stone, or you can stack your influence and make this stone very weak, very, very weak. And our goal with the thickness is not really killing our opponent's stones, but more like abuse your opponent. You're like a debt collector. You lend your opponent some money, and your opponent has a family member outside. You're gonna beat him up so you can get a lot more than what you gave to your opponent. That is a terrible way of explaining it, but I think it is a really funny way to explain it. Anyway, let's continue. So from here, white has two options. First is to try to jump out, not get locked inside. That is what a calm person would do. But in this case, white out of nowhere kept our pincering stone. In this situation, all you gotta do is just be safe because you have your big brother over here, your warlord big brother over here, and this is you. When your opponent tries to attack you, use some aggression, just be safe because your opponent is still in your territory. As long as you live, there is a chance of your opponent dying. And let's get a deeper look at this situation. Although it looks like white is being really active, but later on, black could play this, and all of a sudden, that is a really good moyo possibility over here. And that's first of all. And second of all, these stones still don't have a base. They will never get a good base. You are going to attack them and grow something. By that, I mean, let's say white does these kind of things and you just play safe. Just play safe. Cut. And let's say somehow white lived. Boom. Another moyo. What's white gonna do? Invade in? And you just play the safest moves, and these, like this 15, is something very common in Q games. And let's say this happened, and white gets greedy and tries to pull it out or something, and you ignore it. Boom, another moyo. That's the profit of having a thickness. That's the benefit of having a thickness. You are going to use thickness to grow a moyo by attacking your opponent's stone. And just because you have a moyo, especially in Q games and lower down games, your opponent is going to want to invade in because they can't have a very, how do you say it, clean judgment because they're afraid of seeing this kind of thing happening in your opponent's, in opponent's side. So they're gonna want to invade. And when they invade in, you have a thickness here and there. And when they invade in twice for the second time, you're not gonna capture it, but you're gonna get a tighter moyo like this. Before, our moyo was really loose. Remember? Let's go back. We can't even consider this as a moyo, but while attacking, let's say this, and white somehow lived over here. Let's say white is alive, and we have a large moyo. And when white invades, this larger moyo turned into slightly tighter moyo. And over here, by attacking these white stones, we are getting an even tighter moyo. Although it looks like black is losing points and possibilities here and there, but take a look at white. Doesn't have a lot of points, not a lot of points, only a few points, probably only 2 eyes later on. But on the process, what black got this and this. That's a lot more points than white. And on top of that, there is always a chance of white just dying out of nowhere. That happens a lot in Q games. So just watch out for any stupid decisions your opponents make. Let's say out of nowhere, your opponent plays these kind of things, then you just cut it and see what happens. I didn't read it out, but it looks like a possible cut, right? Let's take a look at this picture. And over here, black goes with Taisha, and it is a joseki, old joseki, but still kind of usable. So in this joseki, white got some points, black got 0 points, but it is can still considered as a thickness because what's white gonna do? Let's say black plays somewhere else. White, I don't think white's gonna play this, right? Who's gonna do that? Even if white does that, that is very thick. It's not gonna die too easily. Anything that is big, by big, I mean, it looks big, right? That's thick and long. And on top of that, if it's not gonna die too easily, then we can consider that as a thickness. Let's take a look at this one too. So this is also something that's not really common in nowadays, but here is something that you might find interesting. So at the end, white gets the corner and black gets some outside influence and thickness. Although white has this thing, black is still very thick because we got tiger's mouth and everything. It's not gonna die too easily, and black locked white inside the corner. That's always a bonus. And what's our first lesson called? It's called What is Thickness? And look at this, it looks very thick. Although we have a white stone over here, that is a garbage stone. It is too close and it's literally touching our thickness. So it is a thickness. It doesn't have to be a long black stick to be considered as a thickness. It can also be something like this. Let's take a look at this one. I see a lot of cube players are still afraid of getting 3-3 invaded after they get this kind of joseki going on. But you don't really have to worry about that, and there is a reason why professional players don't really invade into this kind of 3-3s too early. Because at the end, this is a joseki, but I'm not going to go too deep into it. At the end, although white gets the corner, black gets an incredible two-side thickness. So it's radiating to that side and also this side. This is a two-side thickness, and it is incredibly thick because even if white plays this, black can simply connect up. What is this? Black doesn't even care. Black could do this, but again, this thickness, even if we have only one left, it is incredibly thick. You just throw a stone here. Dare white to come in over here. That's not going to happen. Is white going to come over here? Not going to happen. If white does, just attack it and probably you may be able to kill it too. Now let's take a look at this small knights version. When white invades into 3-3, you don't have to try to capture it. Just surround it, lock it inside the corner, and you have a thickness. Isn't it a great thickness? First of all, although you lost the corner, these two stones, they're hurt. At any time, you can make this happen or even this happen and turn around and attack these two stones. And on top of that, you can also get something like this done. If you are fancy, you can do this and grow something over here and lure white to invade, and you can even pincer it. Even if white does this kind of thing, you can grow something over here. And this is how you use thickness, which we are gonna deal with later. But remember, this is also a form of a thickness. So what I'm trying to say is Don't be afraid of getting invaded in this kind of situation, because although you're going to lose the corner, you are going to hurt your opponent first, and second, you're going to get some thickness, and you can use that thickness to make up for the lost corner. Now let's take a look at a joseki that I really recommend to Kyu players, and I recommended it in YouTube videos, and I also recommend it in our, what do you call it, Essential Josekis project, which is approach, answer, goes into the corner, and pincer. At this point, pincer. Because this is a great joseki to get a great thickness in the early game. And the joseki is, your opponent is gonna go into the corner and you can play this kosumi and get your thickness this way. There are some other ways that it's gonna happen. I could play this or something like that, but the idea is to get a thickness at the end. After the joseki, the best possible situation would be you have a black stone over here to work with this thickness, but even if we have a white stone over here, it's cool, because in Q games and lower down games, thickness is way more powerful than a few pathetic points. Let's take a look at this. If we have a white stone over here, right? Then you can play this thing and your opponent answers. You don't even have to pull back. That's a safer way to play, and it's a recommended way to play, but you can't even jump up because it's too thick, right? What if your opponent invades? Just, you can pincer it if you want. You can even do this. Force your opponent to live over here and just keep jumping or something to get something over here if you're into cosmic style. Okay, all right, that's the first lesson. What is thickness? So the thickness is something that, first of all, looks visually thick, right? This doesn't have a lot of cutting points. It's a solid strings of stones. Anything like that can be considered as thickness as long as it doesn't have too many cutting points or weaknesses. And in later sections, we're going to learn how to use and how to deal with thickness.